Aleph, Omen Tov Lamed Tes, Diva Maschu Vayorach Hashem Asroyach HaNechoyach, and it's באמצע Omen Tov Lamed Tes. So, right, so we saw the Bio Ramashal HaGemara Shebas Melech Shehiricha Tzikei HaKedeira, and that was the Reach HaMeishif as a Nefesh. And we saw that was Shayat, it was Mitzad the Bira HaNetzutzos of Toyu. And we saw that the Reach HaMiti comes from a Dora Chodiv, but that was the Indian from Pseilus, Shefa, which is Nisha Shiroya Kedeiro, Stade Kedeiro. That's Nisha Mea Bishol, when that's Mishchameim, then it leaves a very strong Reach, and it was that there was Davkia the Reach that she was Misavel Azeh Kedei Lahoshiv Es Anefesh. And we saw that was the Bira at the Peseilus Hashefa Shenisho Nimshach Nofa Lamata Mitzad the Nefilas Netzutzos of Nefilas Hashefa the Toyu. And we saw the Bira Milmaila Lamata Barich is somewhat in the previous source and then at the beginning of this source. And then we saw the Indian the Aveda which is Mitzad the Indian from Shemban, what does the Aveda al Pitan Vadas, the Bira Davke of the Nefesh Abam and the Netzutzos for Shanoflu B'Toyu. And we saw that that's the Indian of Aveda which brings Ta'ava al Pi Murgash, al Pi Hargoshes Atzme, ומצד זה יכול להיות עניין האחיזה. And we shall also going to get to the Malachim Alyonim. And that's all connected with the union of Shemban. We saw Shemban as Bekimatcha Behema. That's the union from Yeridus HaShefa Lamata Bebiyah, and particularly the Pseilus HaShefa, which is Nofel to Olam Asiya, and into the union eventually of the union of Noiga. That was the union of Hiricha, the Reach, the Tzikei HaKedeira, V'hainu be'emtza ha'omud, V'hainu ma she'oila u'mizbara me'arapach nitzutzos t'toyu, she'shor b'chinas gvuros elyonos ta'eres t'toyu, she'esh b'hem chayes rav b'tikveres chozer b'yosa. She'mipnei zeh לא יוכלו הכלים לסבול את האויר ונופלו למטה. ובנפילוסן למטה נעשו בחינת רשפי אש החויים הכושר ברוצן חוזק ותקף גודל. We saw that was the union of choyim akosho, and that's Gevuris kosher is the ban the noiga lamata. In other words, the union from Taiva Selam Hazeh Davke, Berish Peyesh and the Choyim HaKosher, which is Davke in Tanugi Elam Hazeh, like it was Maramaz a bit earlier, that the Tanugim Harayah in Elam Asiya Lamata, Noflu from the Tanugim of Gan Eden Asiya, the lower Madrega of Gan Eden Atata in Asiya, which is the infantine Gelaki, of a Mitzad the Shefa Nisha Mizeh, but Nofel Od Lamata, then you get Tainugi Elam Hazeh, and the Klolos are Pseilus of the Shefa, Shenimtza Lamata, that's the ultimately the union from Noiga, the union from Shemban, which brings to the Noiga Lamata in Elam Hazeh Atachta. So we saw that the Alter Rebbe, we saw that the Rebbe is Madgish that the union from Toyu is Gevuris Alyonos the Eres to Toyu. So that's what the Alter Rebbe is Mavaya in Torah at the beginning of a famous moment, Pasha Noach, over about the Hoya Kola Oretz. So for Achaz, Dvorim Achodim, when they get to the Dera Floga. And his mazba over there, that was shot to the Indian spirits, the Toihu. And he writes that what we have the cloud Oirois, the Takifim in Toihu, that they were Oirois. Taki Chazokim and the Kalim were Mu'otim, whereas Takifim or Kalim Mu'otim, and we say in Tikkun, it's the union for the Oirois, Taki and even for Chaloshes, Chushes are here. And the Kalim are able to be Mekabel. The Alter Rebbe in Mazba, that lotion of Tekifis Oirois, the Toihu, well, that's the Inyan HaGvuris, the Ike, which was, as you might call the Nakuda or the Koyach Achorei Korah Inyonim of those Oirois, which eventually split, as you might say, or burst the Kalim into the Choiles, or the Kalim Lekablam, or that was the Inyan from Gvuris Alyonis. In other words, that we see that the Inyan HaGvura is Tikbeiras HaShefa. B'shur Sha'inyan Gvura is Davka Inyan from Mal Yusa. That the Shefa is Nimsha mitzad the Atzmus HaMashpia, even Naila Yesa than it is when it goes purely mitzad the Inyan from Chesed. Because we say that Chesed is a Inyan of Kariros, the Shefa which is Nimsha almost B'derech Mamela. Ve'ilu the Inyan from Gvuris comes Davka mitzad Teikev. Ha'yisoiros in the Mashpia to give forth a Inyan from Oyer. Well, then it comes B'tkifas ha'oyer, and that's the Inyan from Gvuris Alyonis. What B'shorshim Atzmi, that's a Maila, not a Chison. But the way it was in Toihu was that the oyer was so great in a form of his galas, B'teikev, Mitad the Mashpia, at a klolus musik of Kalim weren't able to be Mekabel. Not that you had Kalim Tanim, and that there were a possibility of being Kalim Gedolim. The whole concept of Gvul and Kli wasn't able to be Mekabel as our oyer. Therefore the Kalim Noflo Lamata Mitzad I Yecholtam Lisboel is in a Gvulis a Tkifis a Gvulis a Kadeshis or Elionis a Elusha Oyo in the oyer the Toihu. And the Kalim weren't able to be Seivo, and they were Noflo Ubenafil Osam. Since the Kalim were Neufel Amata, then we have to say that the view in this whole Inyan is that the Netzutzes were Nish Shora B'teich HaKelim. It was well known that when the Kalim Noflu, his name was Nofel, was as it were Chelke HaKelim. Why is it called Netzutzes to Toihu? Because in the Kalim was Nidbak Netzutzes of the oyer. In other words, that the Teikev of the Kalim and the Inyan of the Kalim Shenoflu, what they become a Inyan from Teikev or Taivas, but Teikev a Inyan Denoige B'zeh HaOilam, well, that's mitzad the Netzutzes of the Oiros, we have to say, because that Kifas is Dafki in the Oiros, not in the Kalim mitzad Atzma. In other words, that the Kalim in Yonam is Adarabba Nafila. If Mary Yesh Lema at the Inyan of the Nafilas are Kalim, their Inyan is the pull towards the Inyan of Ban, what Ban is Begematria Bahema, to Dafka pull to the Inyan of Matthias Olam Hazeh. That's the Inyan of Kalim. Of the Tkifas of the oyer, which is a mitzad the Yerida of the Kalim, can be a Inyan from Gvuris Koshes Denoiga. Once we'll see that there's a biro alidei the nefesh alakis of the Odom, then we'll see that those nitzutas become davke amayla mitzad the toikev and the gvulis of the oyer. So that's what he says now, that the toikev of the gvulis koshis, the barotz and chozor, but toikev godel. Shehem B'chinas Gvuris Koshes the Ban the Neige Lamata. Well, that's the Inyan of how the Kalim Noflu with the Netzutzes, and they become what you might call the bren of Toihu Kan Lamata B'Olam Hazeh. Ach, al yidei abiro, but the inyan from biro is not mavur, he's not mavaya beprotius. Was it the inyan abiro? It's well known. The biro is mitzad the chokhmah of nefesh elokis of the Adam davke. Well, that's mitzad the inyan abitl b'chokhmah is bariru, davke mitzad the bitl klapei the kavana elyoina. Then that's able, as a word, to be mishyached and to be toifes the oil which is nidbak in the shivrei akelim. And then what happens? Nasa bohem harotzoi gamchein b'chinas toiker. Or then the shivrei kelim, they become then in a even from rotzoi. Pink to say we lamaila the oilish were in a even from rotzoi, as is well known. Mitzad the nitzutze ha'oyer, which are nidbakim in the kelim, and therefore they stand and they come now through the gila, the beetle of chokhmah from the nefesh elokis, and they hear what is the kavana elyoina davke. So therefore there's a inin of rotzoi, but that's also a b'teik of godel. The gvulis which are in the return as a word to their shirish in kedusha. Mamela comes in them a rotzoi b'teik of godel ukemoi v'rav tvuish b'koyach shoyer davke. But that's always brought in Chassidus. That's a maila. Those are the toisefes which comes into kedusha mitzad the koyach shoyer. In other words, koyach shoyer is shem ban, but that's the yerida and the nafila of the netzutzis lamata. But the raw of tvuish, that's the toitzoa, which comes out in kedusha ainifan toisefes. Pink to zevia tavu as a dovashe shenichmak leachri the ishtadlus of the Adam to be machmia the tvuis. But then it comes a new toisefes at the ainifan roiv tvuis. That's davke shali deize nasa mehem reya chazek lahoshiv es anefesh b'prinas toisefes oyer v'chayes chodosh mibchinas oyereis the toihu shelamayla mia atika. Well, that's l'chera. If you read those sentences and you see that there's a jump or a shinui in the lashon. At the beginning we spoke about kelim, and we said the kelim weren't able to be seivel, and the nafila was in the kelim. The nafila lamato was in the kelim, and then all of a sudden he talks about the inyan von oirois de toyo shalamayla mea atikin. So achmein, lav reisha sefer. And we talk with the kelim and dict with the oirois. Elazar appear that in the inyan the kelim was nidbak the inyan oirois. The bira is to be mala those oirois. In other words, through the bittul el kavana elyoina, the oirois are able to return in a tnua from instead of yerida v'achiza in the kelim. Now, dafkin even aliyah b'lamaila and an aliyah b'rotzoi godel. In other words, they want to go back to their shoulders. So yesh lema adosa de'inim von oiros de toyu b'kelim de tikka. Now, my brought down in the Kutiter and Harvey Mekimis b'kol drushim from the Rabbeim, and what the Rebbe said, that's all available before these scholars of Moshiach, dafki the oiros of toyu b'kelim de tikkun. Meaning that alidei the aliyah of those oiros l'shershom, but since in Yonam is now that they've been misbarer through the inyan from chokhmah, the nefesh elokis, that therefore they're able to go back to l'shershom and then be nimshach be'evena anochin, and then the kelim alidei that avoda, the kelim of oilam atikun also nasim rechovim v'yechelim. La kabel is the toyu. Therefore, he started over the inyan von kelim and he finished with the inyan von oirois, because that's the amitis at toitzoa at the bira. That the oirois, the toyu, shelamayla me'oiros the tikkun, and nimshachim into tikkun. Ukemei adova hachodi v'akoshe, just like we saw it in the tzikei kedera in the moshul, kishenefach latam toyu v'orev lanefesh l'hariyisa. Even though it's not really a dova masuk, and it's not really a dova orev, but when there's a inyan from chalishus b'yoyzer, when there's been the inyan from Nafila into the inyan from Chalishas, well, that's mitzad the Riboy Ha'olam is in the Nafila of once there occurs the inyan the Chazorah of the Oiris and Nidbokim l'Shorsham, and then they're nimshach into the Kelim, the Tikkun, then that causes Uflebenish, I say Ufgeleikkeit and a Tesefes Koyach in the Klal Sinyan at a Kedusha, Dafki in the Indian van Oiris the Toyu, and a nimshach into Tikkun. Okay, Moya Dova Achorif a Kosher, Kishaneh Pach Latam Toyu, Va'orev, even though mitzad etzem minyan, it's not orev in the normal sense. What's even from tikboiras, even from gevura, like we said before, but it's nimshach into the inyan of tikkun, and then it causes a shinui and a mailer and a malyusa in the klal in a tikkun, the klal in a kedusha. But that's the inyan for lahachaziko, lahachayosa, from the inyan from chalishas. So the inyan from Chalishas, we have to say, first of all, the Tikkun of Bechlal, the inyan from Chalishas. We have to say that this Chalishas, what he means here, is mitzad the Yerida of the Oiros, the Toyo Bechlal, into the inyan of Nafila Befrat, Benoige Lamata, and then they become an inyan from Helen Hester, and that causes in the Amshocha from Malchus, but that's the Bas Melech Sokoltov. But that causes in the Amshocha from Malchus a inyan from Chalishas. Okay, he says, Heipach HaGvulis HaKoshes Tanoiga. It pinkt as if the inyan from, I'm sorry, okay, my king, Heipach HaGvulis HaKoshes Tanoiga. Similar, if we take the inyan of the Gvulis Kosher and we're mahapach them to the inyan from Kedusha, then they are machaye from a inyan from Chalishos. V'af begvulis elyonis the band the Merkova, Yaho elyona the Pnei Aria, Pnei Sher the Kedusha, bebitla yesh li ayin. Shezo b'chinas hagvulis tetoyu shekodem le tikkun. So as I said, similarly we find even not just lamata in the inyan of the Gvulis Koshes, how they are in Noiga, but I feel in Lamaila we also find it. Well, that's well known at the inyan from Pnei Adia and Pnei Shoyer, they are in the Merkova Elyoina. They're also the inyan from Oiros the Toyu in a certain stage of their Nafila Lamata, the Mitzad Shviras HaKelim, and that's why those Chayas of the Merkova are in such a tremendous rota, in such a tremendous takeoff, Lalis Lamaila. And eventually we see that the inyan from the highest noises, as Akisei, they're able even to elevate the whole inyan of Malchus and the whole inyan from Olam Atikun, lekabel the others of Toyo Shiyim Moshku, the Toy inyan Atikun. Amamila, that's how it is in the Olamas Shalamayla, similar to how it is in the Hifuch of the Gvulis of Noiga. In the Biro, how it is mitzad the Adam Lamata. In a similar way, you got that inyan of the Merkava Elyoina, but that brings the Oiros, the Toyu, which are nimshach into the inyan of Tikkun, and that's through the bittul of the Yeshla, the bittul HaYeshla Lo Ayin. In other words, that the Shleimus Abiro, Afilo Polamata in Noiga, is through the inyan from Chochma, like we saw, mitzad the Nefesh Elokis in the Adam, and that Aveda, the Nefesh Elokis of the Adam, well, that's mitzad the Bittul Ela Kavona Elyoina, that's the inyan from Chochma. It closes this the inyan from Bittul HaYeshla, Ela Ayin, Bittul Yeshusai, Ela Ayin the Chochma, the inyan from Amitis, Akavona V'chulu. Well, that's also the same inyan Lamaila Pnei Ari and Pnei Shoyer. There the Shoyer showed the Nefesh Abam is the take of it, the Nefesh Inyone, and Nefesh Abam is Lamaila Kiyadua. And Alidei, what the mensch Lamata is Mevatel Nefesh Abahami is, then he causes also in the Merkava Elyoina also that inyan from Aliyah, till it becomes a highest noises esakisei, and that's the inyan of the amshocha the oiros the toyu in the kelim the tikkun shezeu prinus agvulis the toyu shekoidem la the tikkun, or that inyan of the brain what there is in the pnei ari and the pnei shor the toikev, or that's the toikev for the inyan atoyu of alidei the heifer of the inyan from noiga lamata in the avodas adam lamata. Then he causes that they also become a inyan from the highest noises, that they become also a keli to the oiros the toyu, and to be mamshik those inyanim arayah mitzat kavona into tikkun. Sheyesh bezeh yisron maila migufa ha'oyer. That there's in that a yisron maila than the gufa ha'oyer, the etzem oyer kamoishu mitzat tikkun, then that maila which comes from the oiros the toyu, that oyer which comes from the oiros the toyu, has got a maila over the gufa ha'oyer, how it is in tikkun. V'harizeh mechazik kaviyochel leiv adam ha elyon between us toisef es rab. He said that's the amshocha the oiros the toyu in kelim the tikkun, but that brings a inyan of toisef es rav into the leiv kaviyochel of adam elyon, the chizuk aleiv. In other words, that there's a new toikef now in the spheres of Atzilus, in Olam HaTikun, mitzad the amshocha the oiros the toyu, which were oila l'shorshim through the birur of the netzutzet alidei the beetle of the Adam Lamata beginners chokma of nefesh elakis. And Mamela, that's the inyan of the bas milah, and she couldn't. She wanted dafke that reach in order to lahoshi, or rather dafke to be toyim from that part of the kedera in order to be meishiv es ha-nefesh. Mamela zeu she'oma she'richa tzichei kedera. The bas milah hilo that's inyan from malchus to atzilus. Kishiyoredas lamata bebiyah. When the Yeridas are malchus into biyah, she begins chalishus, or that's the moshel of the inyan chalishus, that when malchus sends all the oiros down into biyah, then they become a inyan from chalishus, but that's the inyan ukamayma lechi umiati es atzmei. That's the bavusta loshin in the Gemara Masechta Chulin to the miyutaya oreach. So there was kaviyocha kitrug on the part of the oreach. And she said, "Efshel shnei malachim shemishtamshu bekeser echad." And the Eivshter said, "L'chiyu ma'atiyatat atmei." So it's mavur. And instead of that was really a inyan which was really a chelik of the kavana el yoina. And the whole inyan of the kitrug, it was like a siba meito is borat that we should be able to say to l'chiyu ma'atiyat es atmei. Kitavke through that inyan of the Yerida Lamata, there'll be this whole inyan of the Birur HaNetzutzes, and through that will be a river, Godel, Afilo Legabi the Moir HaElion, the Moir HaGodel, or is Nisha Ba'atzilus V'chulu. Mamela, that's the whole Tachlis of Melechi Me'ati Esat Me'ut, that's the Yerida, the Shefer, from the Lavona, from the Areach, or that's Malchus. Yeah, well, that's the inyan from the lechi me'atiyas. That's make that to go down and to be machaya and to be mishaleh techayis into olam hasbi. V'gam yochel is b'chinas choili. There can even be not just a chalishas, nor even a inyan for choili, a inyan from Helen ve'ester mitzad ribuy ha'elamas ve'esteirim to b'marid madregas atachtoinas einem yochelim lekavu b'chinas ha'oinega ha'elyon. Because mitzad the meaning from malchus, but not primus malchus. That's the meaning from oineg elyon. On the contrary, malchus of meir in Gan Eden elyon, and that's the meaning of oineg. When it goes down in the ribu yeridas into the union of biyah, then the whole purpose of that is to be ma'ira, and mavara, or those inyonim how they were noflu mitzad the peselus hashefer, they were noflu Lamata. Remember, that's the inyan from Lechiyu Ma'atiyas Atzmei. V'gam yochel is afilu inyan from Choili, not no miut, no afilu inyan from Choili. Einam yochel mekabu p'chinas ha'oineg ha'elyon. B'yeridoso, davki in that yerida of Malchus into the inyan of biyah, harihi mevareres birudim b'noige de biyah. In other words, that there's two inyonim in the whole in what Malchus is Machaya Biyah. First of all, there's the etchim meaning what the Chayas is Nimshach, Lahachiyas is Anivroim, and then in the inen of that Chayas, and the Tachlis of the inen what Malchus is Mamshik, that Chayas into the Nivroim, is that it should be Biyachel Tom, Lahalis is Kol Inyan Ayirida. If we take the Yam Shocher from Malchus, and as they're saying, has it, we stam late the Sarain in Keshen, stam we put it in our pocket and we just live a guten Tag, as they say, then that's not the Kavanah, and that causes the Yin van Helen, Vahester, Vachalishes, Vachulu, Vachola, Inyonim. Or if we makabel the Chayas as it is Mitzad the Kedusha. And we know that the Kavanah of that Chayas is that we should be in a Lamaylam Inyon Oilam, that we're given the Chayas by the Eivishter to do something with it. We have a tafkid and a taflis in the Kabbalas HaChayas, or that's the Amitis HaKavona in the Yeridas HaShefa from Malchus, is Levara Berudim, tafkid to be botil to the Kavona Al-Yena Mitzad the Kabbalas HaChayas, V'zeu Shirichet Sicheke Teira, that the Chayas from Malchus, tafkid Belamata, V'zeu Oilam is Mariach the Peselas of the Kedera, of the Shefa, and that's the Inim Masha Ola Reach Chazak Mipchinas Biruri Rapach, what the Rapach is Inim from the Tzutzis to tell you with the Oiros are Klulim by him. Shenofo Lamata Shezou Mipchinas Apselas Ta'atzilas, for who Sha'ila Mipchinas Oir Choizer. It goes back with the Inim Toikev, like we saw the Inim from Oir Choizer, that Rotzoi Elyon, what occurs mitzad the Oir Anidbach in there. Kalim, where it has this rotzah to go back to its shorish, and eventually it reaches the shorish, and it brings the toyu, the oiros of toyu, mitzad the kavana al-yoina this time, back into the kalim of tikur. Amamir nimtz lefisa anachude nifloa. What do we receive chayas for? The whole tachlis, why we live, and the whole tachlis for us a yid is do. In the world, why Malchus gives all the chayas, and Malchus sends down all the inyonim, Maila Lamata, to be Machaya the Nivroim from Biyah, is all Kidei. So if it's Hadiko, we should take the chayas and use it for the ultimate tachlis, which is to make a dear loy is bara betach toinim. Every inyan is a inyan from Birur, from Halua, noch solche Sachen. So now that it's all been completed, Avshav Kol Inyonim Kvar Hushlamu, so man need to be machlis and to be mashlim the whole inyan alidei like it's mavur that there are two inyonim in the inyan from Iskalas or the inyan from Aliyas Anitutes. First of all, the oil Lamaila and the oils the Toyo Nimshach in the Kedim the Tikkun. But that causes the scholars and the people in the Kelim, and then there's a inyan from the, like we saw, those who learned the Echotz. I don't know if you guys learned the Echotz in Lakut Torah, the famous mime from the Alter Rebbe, where he attacks the inyan from Sinas Chinam. It's over there. He says there are two inyanim. There's the inyan from Iskalos HaKelim in Tohu, and then he said there's a inyan from the Oiros, what the Eros at Kifim, it's at the Tohu. For them to be Nimshach Beklav, to be Nidbach in the Kelim, there has to be, as it were, a Yichud and a Bitl and a Iskalos in the Oiros Kufa. And that's Yesh Lema, that's the inyan Odioter Naila. That first of all there's the Ilui Alidei, the Etzem Netzutes, Alidei, the Kabbalas HaChayas from Malchus. They were then male all the inyan of the Netzutes, and that causes a gilu of the Eres to Toyu, Uvamela, Boif Masuyam, also a Iskalalas in Tikkun, but it's not the Aldamas, the Iskalalas. The Aldamas Iskalalas is when the Oiris themselves, they're becoming as our even, that they're all Koilu and Miskalu, one with the other, and they're all Nimshach and even from Shleimas. Well, that's what's mavur in Lakutei Torah. Before Shavuos, you have not only the avodah from Sfiras Ha'omer, but then you have the Shleimus in the inyan from Sfiras Ha'omer. Well, that's to cause the inyan of Shleimus of the Koilo, and then there can be a Yeridas Havaya al HaSinai. So Yesh Leimer, we're holding by that right now. that the Ine from the Birur, the Rapak, that the Rebbe promises that's already been done. You know, we halt mir jetzt, wir halten bei der zweiten Ringen, der Ine von Shleimus de Koile, there should be the Vayera Ravaya al Sinai. That's what that Maimon from Likutei Torah so Nageya, that the one thing that can be mavavul is the Ine from Midian, Klippus Midian, Rachman in Land, the Ine from Sinach, Chinam Okayetza B'zeh. Ich meine, das ist der Dover Achmi für die Liuma sehr, even more than Amalek, come vor in certain Drushim. And in the Zohar Kodesh, by Miyucha.
Rebbe said we also were attacking Sfina.
Yeah, the Rebbe said we're also being attacking it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said that? Where did you find that?
Van
Oh yeah, in the president of Amalek, he said that. Yeah, when I get to the Ine von Midian.
Yeah.
Good.
And, you should do Ahavas Yisrael now as a teamah for Yemot HaMashiach. Not
Good.
for a tikkun.
Okay. So even that has been matukin. Yeah.
We read in the Torah that they wiped out Midian.
Oh yeah. That you're not familiar with Nach. What happened immediately after Yeshua passed away? Als je aan mij met Gideon, met Midian, als je komt in Midian betekent van Ki Otzim.
I thought they were completely.
Lehilochem bij Yisrael met Amalek. Er staat Gideon van Amalek bij Emek met Kol B'nai Kedem, met die alle slecht. Vroeger toen, alle zijn er gekomen. Er staat in de Zohar Kodesh, Miyad achrei Stalchus Yeshua, komen in Midian weiter.
That Moshe Rabbeinu wiped them out?
Yeah, Moshe Rabbeinu wiped them out. It was brought down that he only wiped them out by Issahar's man. But they were Chayzer V'nir B'sman das, and it's Masha from the Maimon Likutei Torah that it's Chayzer V'nir Kva Yud Zayin Meir Shana. They schreibt the Alter Rebbe. The Indian from Sinas China. And the Kuntres Echalter was much more recent, that's much more up to date even than the Maimon. I don't mean up to date in the Teichen, or in the actual Amira. What they say, the Rebbe said to learn the Indian from Kuntres Echalter. When was it? Toshin Nun? Nunala, the Rebbe gave out the Kuntres Echalter. He said they should make sure in Barabim and Muzaslana. In other words, that the Rebbe was chosh, that the whole Indian from Klippus Midian has no house, got an Achiza Musuyemet. Yeah, Eva Mela. That's the one thing that can be mavalvo with the Indian from Klippus Midian. And state in the Zohar Kodesh, all Ra, they state in the Zohar, in Pasha Bola, that all evil that ever happened to the Jewish people is more from Midian than anything else. I feel more from Amalek, because Midian is a stupa to Amalek. I state that in the Zohar Kodesh. In other words, that Amalek, because Amalek is Bapoyal Mamish. He's when it comes down into Dibur and Maiz and Svelta. And Midian is the philosophy. How do you call it? Midian is the.
It's higher even than Amalek.
Huh?
Amalek is Reishis Goy. Midian is even higher than
Well, I don't know if he's higher or he's.
it's more short.
Yeah, he's more sort of Dak Bayati.
Yeah.
Robin sagen nach dem Eifen. I don't use the word higher. I once heard from an Al Chassid, when you're talking about the clippers, you mustn't say higher or lower. It's not a good word. The Torah is not higher and lower. It does occur the Lashon occasionally. Higher and lower to get to the clippers. He said, B'fat to Amalek, you don't use the word high, low. We're so close, Amalek. Anyway, suffice it to say that we're holding Le'achrei this bureau, I'm now. We're holding by a much stiffer bureau. We have to bring the Shleimusa. That's what he's mad about there in the beer, the Alter Rebbe Masber. There's a hechera bureau in the Yetzim Netzutz, the bureau of the Oiris of Toihu, that they should be mamish nim shochim betikun. Then they also have to undergo a certain hiskalas, a certain bittul b'teichatu. Afilu yachrei zeh mavur kan, and that's a shleimusa to koila. And then after that, yeah, ve'yer Hashem al sina yemotis, wie man sagt yemotis yontov, dik. So in the mitten Dreit Chaim Midian, in the mitten Dreit Chaim. der Meise mit Midian. As he stated in the Zichron in the Zohar Kodesh, so Pasha Bola, that everything which is not good in Bayidin came Be'emes from Midian. And that Amalek is never stated a very fascinating combination that the Bolach was also from Midian. He was on a sick, Rashi brings, he was on a sick Midian. And he became Moabite. And therefore, I always state that Bnei Moab at the end of Pasha Bola, the Zohar Kodesh, there was the Bnei Moab were just to failing. When it was Midian. It's also Midian. And the Bolach is, if you take the Lamed Kuf at the end of Bolach, and you take the Ayin Mem at the end of Bilam, then you get a Amalek. In other words, Amalek is a cross between Bolach and Bilam. And therefore the Arizal used to call Pasha Bolach Bilam. As they flip the roof of those. As they say, Pasha Bolach Bilam. Because the two go together. Das Alberinian, and das ist Midian, und von dem wird geboren Amalek. Well, Amalek is only the pearl mamish. I mean, he's bad enough. I mean, there's a gorgeous fellow. Aber Kila, the previous davon is Midian. They stay dort in Zohar Kodesh. יש להסבוינים בכל זה, אבל ההריג בזה, אבל אין הזמן עכשיו להריג בדברים המצעירים, we have to go in gute Sachen. על כל פנים, זה בירוי רפ"ט, שנופל למטה, שזהו מבחינס הפסילת, תעתילת. הוא שואל מבחינס אויר חויזה. And it's all under, אויר חויזה is always, even though, מצד הגילויים, it's בחליש זה כך מבואר. In the Kisvei Arizal, aber mitzad the Pnimius, it's B'toikiv Otzum, and that's the Indian von Eir Choyze. And that's the Indian, what Pagolui, what does she need? The whole Indian von der Reya von Tzikha Keteres, a Peselis Keilu. The Fa Pagolui is it man das nicht, aber bei Pnimius, Reya Chazak, Lahoshi, Vanefesh, B'yoisa. Achamei Vayorach Reya Begodol, like we find by Esau, that he had the Begodim. Big day Chamudes of Nimrod, what he stole from Nimrod, and Nimrod got it from Adama Arishan Kiyadua. The big day Ace of Chamudes, how you Mishurei Azayim Malachim to tell you. But the Azayim Malachim to tell you, then a feelers Oirish to tell you, the feelers Anitutus to tell you. Shaloin is Baro Adayin. Shaloin is Baro Adayin. Who gan came Kins Chashmal Hoelioin Shanof Lamata Bechet Eta Hada. So who's a will with them? Because the eating from Beged is a eating from Lavush. And it's well known that Chashmal is a Lavush. That's Mavua in Teira in the Drushim Falekhlach Beneget Tamila. It's Mavur the Indian from Chashmal in one level, how it is in Atzilas Kufa. And then in Lakota Terra, in certain places, the Alter Rebbe Masber, that there's another Chashmal, which is Gura Hoicha Chashmal, but that's a Lavush, which is Malbish, the Indian from Atik, Pnim is Atik in the Moichas, the Moabs, Gura Hoicha Indian. And then there's another Chashmal, well, that's a Lavush. Well, that's also in Hilchas Mila in Derek Mitzvah Secha Ba'aliches in the Indian Mitzvah Mila. There's another Chashmal, but that's a Lavush, a Nimshach, Lechitzenius Amalchus, the Indian from the Indian from Sandal, the Indian from Malach Sandal. Well, that's the Dover HaMafsik, the Mafsekes, that he called the Parsa. HaMafsekes being Atzilas Lebiyah. And in Parsois themselves, there are numerous daggers. Over that Parsa is called a Sandal, so Av, which is Mekilum, how do you call it, Manea, the Ashpoas HaShefa. So in that, of Atzilas Lebiyah, in that Indian, there can be a certain Achiza in the Indian, because it's Indian from Helem. And therefore it causes a chalishas in the Indian Agilui, then there can be a certain Indian from Nafila in there. And that's what it means, that in the Indian from Chayta Itzadas, there was a certain Achiza in the Chashmal Azeh, which later becomes the Indian from Malach Sandal, and that's what is over there in Derek Mitzvah and in Lakut Teter, in Pash Tazriyah. The Alter Rebbe dort Marich in the Indian from Chashmal, when they get to the whole Hevdil ben Atzilas Lebiyah, He talks over there about the inyan von chashmal, chash and mal, what chash is the inyan von shtika, mal is the inyan von dibur. There's two hafochim. Well, that's the inyan, the chash part of it, that's the helem, how it is mitzad atzilut, those are the yechoiles of atzilut to be nimshach, and that's the inyan von the helem in the parsa, and mal is already the Uyer HaCholosh, which is Nimshach Achrei Sandal or Achrei a Parsa. That has a certain shaykhs, what needs a biur, a ketzat zeh bediuk, or v'yesh l'zeh shaykhs to the inyan von Chet there's a certain achiza, because it's a helem godel, there's a certain achiza in the Nafilas Shefa from Olam HaToyu. For winning kois nois oyer the Adama Rishon. That's what we said. The big day of Chamudas, they were bems from Adama Rishon, and Nimrod got hold of them, and Esau stole them from Nimrod. Well, that's what's written in Bereshis, that after the Chet, the Eibishter made them kois nois oyer. He made them begodim made out of skin. But that's already a dover Av dover ha'mailemo master. Mashing in the Alter brings in Tanit and Perik Beis that there was a levusha Adam Arishan koidem ha'chait, what they were made out of what's now similar to fingernails, like a very dark levush dark ma'id, which is at that time was on a very high madrega. Avali achrim is it was a inyan from kois nois oyer, but that's mailemo mastir, and that inyan from the inyan from oyer with the ayin. Well, that comes mitzad, or the helem and the achiza of the sandal of the chashmal, like his masbin there with chashmal in the inyan of the Yerida at a chaytayt adat. Shali the abira oila la big vudish el yoinait. Aber wie bald so that is the inyan of a helem behester. But that comes mitzad the inyan from Malchus and mitzad the inyan from Gvudish. And therefore, that is shaykhs to Esau. So of course, therefore, alidei the inyan from Biro, then there's a certain aliyah, afira from the big day Esau. That's what we find. That Yitzchak said, "Vayorach is rare begodo." That Yitzchak saw the tremendous mile of pnimius that there is in these begodim, that they were really shy to Esau. But that's because Yaakov went and took them. Rivka took them from Esau and put them onto Yankee, but therefore he was rare as rare begodov, but that's the inyan from Boiged also, the inyan from Maraf, inyan Anafira, and Afro Pikain, he saw the rare Toiv and the rare godel that there was in that. And Mamir, that goes back in the inyan from Eir Choizer, what that's a Toike for Eir, Shalamaylam Ebchinas Eir Yosha, what is that Maila? Well, that's the Amshocha, the Eir is the Toyu in Madregas Atikor. V'chein Be'er, the Eidas Amalchus, Behecholas de ban de noiga, that's beklauding from your readers Malchus. That's even in Olam HaBriya, even now it is at the beginning of Ishtalshalas. How much more so when it comes all the way down into Noiga, Lavare Berurim de Noiga. That's the Ike of the Hiricha as Tireaka Kedeiro. Sheesh Bozeh Oinig Niflo Yesa Miprinas Oinig Elin Shebachachma Umidas Da Atila. But that's what we found in the previous Asparichas, that in the union of we saw that was Tainug Be'ete. Because that's Tainug in Dvarim Sheim Shaychim Lo Tainug Mitzad Etzem Minyana. Therefore we call it Tainug Be'ete, not Tainug Atzmi, but Tainug, well, we did say Tainug Atzmi, but we meant Tainug Be'etem. And this is another type of Tainug. This is Ha'inig Nifla, which comes Davke from the Dover HaHofuch. And Davke, that's Mo'ira, Ha'inim from Reyach. And that's Meishivas and Nefesh Be'yesa, the Amshocher, the Eretz Tatoyu Mamish in Keirim the Tikkur. Ve'zeu Atam ve'asibo, Masha B'chinas HaMalchus, Mitzamtzemes Liyah B'chinas Melech Al-Om. Now we'll understand the whole reason for what's Beklau. Does the Eibishter make that you can't aim Melech Beloy Om, that the Eibishter wants that Davke Malchus should be shaykh to the Ashpur into Elamus Nifrodim, it should become Melech Im Om, Malach Al-Om, Shazeu Yeridas V'Tzimtzum Godel, Liyah Kesef V'Reish Labi'ah, like it's put down, the Lashon Reish Leshu, Shu Olim, ultimately it becomes Lekof Ches, Shirufim Deshem Eloi, Kim, and it's well known that the last Mem Ches there, he shot to the Indian of Ja, the Liuma mit der ganze Inem, but that's the Yeridas Hashefa into Noiga. So I said, why do you even need that? What do you need to make a Zavil? Make a world where everybody's fine and boil. You know, make up a Zavil. What did you make a world that Dafki with Kof Chestiruf and the Shemalakim and Malchus becomes our racial Sholim with the whole Indian? What they're going to do is, Shazeo Yerida, the B'chinas Chochma, Shebedibur, Liyais Moche, Lehavis, or Lahachis, and Nivroim Balei. Well, that's the Indian, what the Indian from Dibur. Aber hidden in that Dibur is the Indian from Chochma El Yaina. Lahavis Lahachla is Nivroim Debi. What is Mavurim? That's a combination of Chochma and Dibur, or that's the Indian from the Asura Mamoris Tafke. What the Indian is, Mitzad Echad we want it should be near Nivroim. Aber Mitzad Sheni we want that there should be the key and the click inside them. Somehow or another we'll be able to get to them and be mahal them over. B'chazorah, well, that's what we saw earlier. But that was the Yeridus of the Shefa from Malchus, that it's got itself like a T'nai. The Einachanam is Yerid and Mashpia, the Chayas, or hidden in that is a Kavona, that you have to use the Chayas for the right Inyan and the right Aveda. Similarly here, what's the whole reason why Malchus becomes a Melech al-Am in such a way that it becomes Shayak to the Filah, the Inif and Sirufin, the Shem Alakim, which ultimately they bring to Ayin Shal Biyah, how it is in an oven for Noiga, what that is Masba now. Well, that's because we want it through the Yerida from Malchus Dibur, and hidden in that Dibur, the Iskashas of the Inyan HaChochma, that we should be able to make a Dira and a Seder out of this whole unbelievable balagan and mess which you make over the Zini von Eilama Hazeh with the Nafilas Pseilus Shefa. The Kol Zeh who rak b'shvil bira noiga de biyah shenofel shomar rapakne tuteis. America come to us that the whole reason that the world's like it is was for that purpose, and that's a big chiddush of the Arizal. The Arizal said that the whole Inif and Klolas Inyan Abriya, but Klolas Inyan Yuridis, Kola Oidas, but Kola even Aisavas, Ad le Mokia Haki Elian, and Ad le Tzimtzum Arishan, was all for the Inif and Birahania. And the Tzutzays, it was all in order that there should be a infant Toyo, a Mitzat Toyo, there should become the infant for him, Bizin, the infant Noiga, what night, so that the infant yes, like we saw Bitla yes. Ela Ayin, or this is the ultimate Tachlis. And that's the famous Teres Arisa, that the whole Yerida was only the Torah Birana and the Tzutzays. And therefore, the Sachidish Otzum, Noiro, Mishkali Day Malkenu Mishachenu, that's already been Mistayim, but even Masuyam is noch in Loima, Shezekwa Hushla. Aber upon him, that's the Inin Kamoisha who, Adler Rega Masuyam, Zesha Kosa, Batochom, Ba'id, Laila, Batitin Terach Lebeisa. But Laila is the Inin van Helen by Esther. But talk on Ba'id Laila, that the Inyan from Malchus literally gets up. That's not an Inyan from Yerida. The ganze Kavona in them is it should be an Inyan from Aliyah through the Inyan from Teref Lebeisa. So what is Inyan from Teref? Teref is Bigamati Rapach, Imakoilo. Shezeo Yerida Samalus Bebiyah Levarabe, but talk on Ba'id Laila, really it's an Aliyah, the Kavona in them is the Inyan from Bira. And so Malchus comes down and gives you your whole Inyan from Chayas, and looks after you and says to you, grow up and be a nice person with the ganze Aricha Zainonim, als Kedei sollst oben Koyach, and sollst oben hidden in the Shefa Amal, the Inyan from Chochma, the Inyan from Bittel, of to Poel sein what you're really supposed to be doing. If I'm ever has the expression, have it Chavalo Ko, Chavalo Ko Rega, and the famous statement of the Friedrich Rebbe, what he said, Afos Vatman, what are we waiting for? V'chule v'chule. Stam sitzen in der Meshuggah Gole. Stam, Rohide say Yadayim, ma nuchal lazis, ma in yonenu bo, we'll hide our heads inside the base of Medrash or Kayetza B'zeh. So we see that Rahman in its land der Welt los nicht. Es sind jetzt Toveya und Zoyak, haben so etwas tun, haben so Ratten in der Welt. We have to save the world. Und wir der einzige Weg ist durch die Scholars of Teres für Divrei Malkeinu Meshachenu wie es Galusei haben Yodiyas. Kommen wir noch auch auf Panim, an die Ine von der Tochum bei Eid Laila, der Kima in der Ine von Malchus, which is Be'etzem HaYerida, aber der Kavona ist dort der Ine von Akimo, und a revealing of the Emes Kavona, Tochum, aber ich kosse Bezoya, it's a Lashon Rebur in different places, and considers the Belayla Azlas L'Turecha Hashoicha. In the nighttime, Malchus goes to the mountains of darkness, but Turecha Hashoicha, the Netzutzis to Toyu, how they call it the Inyonim, and why they call Toyroi. Toyroi is a mountain, because each one of them is like a yesh bifnei Achme, the Netzutzis Kamosha Noflu, in the yeshes of Noiga. Und mit Tamon Archis Mazena, von der sie dafke, kleibt how they call it the Mazen, she dafke gathers together all the Indian of the Netzutzis, and brings them to their shoulders. What that's the union of Hirich Tzikha Kedera, Rochinas Reach HaChozek Me Biruriane, Netzutzis, what does it the Emes of Mazin, which is Meisha Vesa Nefesh. V'nimtza the Indian Reach Ushanazim in the Tzitzut to you. Now, Mega Nimtza Lefizeh, that the whole Indian Reach, which we've been adding at, we're trying to be Mefarish, already for several chapters, was the Indian from Reach, compared to the Indian from Achila. We already get to a certain maskana that the Indian from Reach is that maki for the Eres Tatoihu, which is the Kavonotzim Laham Shikoisah, into the Kalim of Tikkun, like he says over there in Lakuta, the Bira of the Indian Eres Tatoihu. Well, that's the whole Indian of Reach, because they are Indian from Makif, and they're Nimta. V'nimshach into Panimi. And remember, those are the Emes Indian of the Tachlis Arayach, that it should be mashpia into the Indian of the Kalim of Tikkun. And that's the Indian of Kamaima. Where are we? V'nimshach the Indian Arayach Ushanase min Netzutzis Tatoyu. In other words, that's the Maila and the Amshocha of the Makifim Elyoinim through the Etzem Bira and the Tocham Bayit Laila, but Titan Teref Labesa, the Bira which occurs in those Netzutzis through the Amshocha of the Etzem Chayas from Malchus. So just a couple of minutes more, and that's what he says, Bi Oid Sha'areach U B'chinas Makif. And furthermore, another biur now, it's well known that the Indian from Reach, as we've been saying, Bechlav is Dimin from Makif, or Kamayma Sha'areach, who dover shaneshama nenami menu v'loya loy hagu. But the Gemara brings that eiza dover shaneshama nenes mimenu have a oimazeha areya. That's the union of the reach tafke, because we see that the mensch doesn't chew reach, he doesn't eat it, he doesn't swallow it. It goes into the body kilo in an eifon ruchni b'yesa. And it's Machaya the Inyone Aruchnim in the mensch, the Koiches Elyoinim, without any Nagia in the Koiches Ataktoin, like Koiches Aichul or Koiches Haguf Beklau. And therefore the Gemara says, basis on the Posik, Kol HaNeshama Tahalel, El Kol Tikrei Neshama, Neshima V'chul. Amameh, ולא יגוף, היינו שאין הנקנס בגוף בפינס פנימיוס כמו המייכל. בדיוק like we just touched. שנעשה דם ובוסר קיבץ סורי, מה שכן הריח, שאין הנקנס בגוף. It doesn't go, I mean it goes through the nostrils, but it doesn't go into the clay הגוף. ומגיע בפינס מקיפים דנפש דווקא, like it's brought down in the Zohar Kodesh, it's brought down that later the Rebbe is going to bring it here, the Indian the two nostrils of the reach which goes through the nostrils, well, they reach into the Indian from Chaya or Chaya de Chaya. they reach the Inen von Makifim, the Makif de Chaya, and the Zohar Kodesh calls the Yechida Chayinde de Chayin. In other words, the Inen von Yechida. It's interesting, if I'm not mistaken, Davki the left nostril, that's the one that reaches into Chayinde de Chayin, Davki through the Inen von, like we see here. The Inen von Chalifas of Toihu, well, that reaches right into the Inen von Makifin Sheba Nefesh, with the whole Arichas Bedova, and that's one of the timing why our Reach Chozik is ought to be more the mensch, because the nostrils, they are like a entrance into the what you might call the echelons of Chayas in a higher Madrega by the Odo. So therefore said the Rebbe, that's the Inen von Makifim Sheba Nefesh Oda Chaya, Oda Afilo Yechida. V'yadua da'eres da'toyu ein eres makifim shalamayla mislabshis b'kelim. In other words, just like the Inen von Reach is lamayla mi a guf, it doesn't actually enter the guf b'pnimius. Similarly, the etzim Inen von those oiros of Toyu, they were lamayla mi slabshis b'kelim. We must be at the beginning of the shir that they're not that the kelim ptanim is the pshat that were actually kelim ptanim. The whole Inen von Kelim was koton legamri meilahochil, the whole Inen of Oyer, how it was in Toyu. And we said that the Inen von the Oyers, the Toyu are be'etzim l'mayla mi'yislam, and therefore, like we must be earlier, they're a form of a makim. Akamesh kosef makim acher. When they move in Gamkein, the Reach, hu mitzad biruri anitzutze, shenimshach alideh bechinas Oyer makim. What it follows lefizeh, that the Inen von Reach comes davki mitzad the Inen von Birurim, being as it is our Inen von Oyer Makif, which l'mayla mi akelim, l'mayla mi knisa el Inen akelim, which is the Inen von Achil. So yesh loyma that's a toisefes ikaris, but there are bio in what was the whole Arichas earlier with the Hadgosha Kidei Hadgosha, that the Inen of Oyerish the Toyu Dafki the Inen from Makifim, and the Reach is shot to the Inen of Makif. And therefore that's the Inen that the Hamshocher, the Oyerish the Toyu into the Kelim Matikin, the Yichud of the Makif and the Pnim. Alright, so we got that close, we may as well finish, we'll just read it quickly so that we can finish the chapter. V'zeh ha'maimad. He said, "V'yesh gam kein b'chinas Reach b'madregas de Tikkun." You shouldn't think that Reach is only shayach to the Oyers to you. No, I feel in madregas de Tikkun mitzad atzmam. V'chol zehu b'chinas Makif. It's also Inen from Makif. V'ikar ha'Reach u'shebo midav ha'chorif ha'inu anin tzotzis u'b'emes gam b'chinas ha'Reach de Tikkun anal u'b'chinas ha'birurim rak shezehu ma sheniklau b'klal. Oh, wait a minute, I missed out on something, no? Yeah. Beginnen ze Reach de Tikkun. Ukemoi, where do we see Inen von Reach in the Inen von Tikkun? Chamina bereach de Vulushaykhu, dahin alavushim de mitzvahs. Or that Inen von, the lavushim of mitzvahs, which have in themselves the Inen von Reach. Well, that's referring to the famous story in the Zohar Kodesh. It's also Pasha Bolok. What that talks about the, what's called, the how do you call it, the Yenoika. But he met Rabbi Yosef, stated on Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Yehuda, I think it was, that they went out on a mitzvah. They went out on a mitzvah, Dachnosis Kala. And it's written that they were busy the whole time with this mitzvah. And they met up with this Yenoika, and he wouldn't come up close to him. He kept away from him. So they said, "What's your problem?" And he said that Harichna bereach levushaychu deloi korisu kriya shema haye. He said, I can smell in the Reach of your Levushim. You didn't read Kriya Shema. I suppose we may as well let him sleep. He said, you didn't read Kriya Shema. You don't even help us out there, Reuven. We're talking now about the Reach and Levushim. So, says the Yenoika that you didn't read Kriyat Shema, if I can smell in the Reach of your Levushim. So it's interesting, Tafkin Levushim, the Inen von Makif. I thought the Inen von Reach. So they said to him, we're also bar mitzvah. It's one of the Inyonei Hazeh, which also Nagia in Nigla. It's got a stark Nagia in the Inyan for Nigla. Because they said we were asukim bar. We didn't read Krishma, we were asukim bar mitzvah. Yeah, also bar mitzvah, poter mina mitzvah. So he said, Afu Pikain, he said, I can't be miskari because you didn't read Krishma. They say it in the Zohar. So the whole beer and the whole pilpul was there. That from that we see that Krishma is a mitzvah klali that doesn't fit into the whole of an mitzvah poter mina mitzvah. If you don't read Krishma, they're lacking all the klolas of all the other mitzvahs. I was saying kind of laharik was that's all direct. We do meaning for Nasa Benishma, what led to the Inam and Kabbalah Satira. That's not actually Kabbalah Satira. Over Blizeh, the ganze Kabbalah Satira couldn't really function or get moving or be Nimshach. The same thing with Krishma. If you don't read Krishma, Cholila felt the whole, moving, what the Rizal said at the day which you don't read Krishma, but Einutzah is Eino Yochel Hamshich. If you didn't read Krishma with money, you're not charged to certain inyonim. Call Oisa how you doing? The same kind of more laharik bozeh. And we have to anyway, that's what he means by Chaminam Berichot Lo Hushaychu, but that's always in the mitzvahs. Hashem, that's going to be by Mashiach. Also, Inyan von Reach, but it's got to do with the Inyan von Tikkun, Yiras Hashem. Because of Prince Maki, Ve'ika Reach, Ushabo, Midova Chorev, Ano Nitzutzes, when it comes Prince Reach, the Tikkun and Al Prince of Birudim, Vakshazo, Masha Kfa, Nichlau, Prince of Tikkun. It's not still out there in Toyo, it's already become the Toikev already in Tikkun. Avo, Biyasaida, Ve'ikur, Prince of Birudim, the Toyo, Einachanam. Emer Kunta is that the rayat that there is in Tikkun and in Kedusha, it really mitzad birurim that have already been completed in Hushlam. The Klalashini and Arayach, Mechinas Biruria, Gvuris of Toyo, those Gvuris, yet Afke, Mamila, therefore they have in themselves a tremendous Toike for the Elder Be'ila or Mamshik, Madregas Alyenas, Maid, and thus at Inyan von Rayat Levu Shaichu. Mamila had it. If you read Krishma Visman and El Reed, we have to sein Geta Gutta Reach over the Yonaika, he's out to pick up it. That Mami said, I feel they had a terror. I've got a terror. There are ganze people considers about that. The Rebbe Marsh got a whole piece about it in the Tosh Reichkopf, that's a whole big thing. Yeah, and it's the Potamina Mitzvah, do this. The Rebbe's got about it. For Rebbe,
that's why a lot of Rabbonim, they do tabak.
Eh?
They do tabak in their nostrils.
Oh, ja, ist nicht gut. I mean, I will nicht missen in der. Aber zwischen, that the Alter Rebbe said, mit tun nicht reinstuppen. The Alter Rebbe was very against tobacco. Yeah, very good. That's why he broke the whole thing what they gave him, They gave him a matana of tobacco push. He took the lid off it. So he could use it, I think, for his tefillin. The ganze remind me another time, I'll tell you about it. Ganze Riechers in them, not just the etzem guf am Eisen. There's a bisschen room in them. Ja, auf die Alter Rebbe gesagt, man soll nicht reinstuppen, ka Taive oder ka Dova Chumri in die Kol Nishima Tahal Ko, die Innen at the Reach, which is Eina Guf Nernis Mimenu. He was very much against tobacco for some reason. Anyway, whatever. Ein kann man noch harig. Ist mit der Sender Meilische Bekol, Hainyonim, Bekol Inyonim, mit auf nicht Cholile fallen ka Sinnes Chino, Chas V'Sholem. Is no Aves Chino, no Libo Miet Einem, aber helping people out of their slof or whatever, helping sich allein out of his own slof. Aber Drike Aves Chino. Was it in a good take of me out and zal sender binnen bei Samiktoshah Ashlishi. As it was klar in halacha kol pina shata poine lo tehiyu ela liyamin. Whenever you turn, you got to turn to the right. So when it comes to another Yid, if you want to turn, you got to always turn to them. Good. Okay, Yidden.